this one thing about creating music. Like for me, it's like one moment, an hour ago, there was nothing on my laptop but a blank canvas. And within an hour, I have this colorful movement, right? That now it has like it takes you like depending on how I feel. Like if I'm feeling happy, it has an energetic feel. If it's feeling like if I feel a little sad, sometimes I write a sad song, and it helps me. It helps me to go like it's therapy for me in a sense. Like if I'm not creating, I'm I get very sad. Like when I go with a month without creating, like it's like with a like I don't know if now that I've seen you've been walking a lot, like you feel it when you stop walking or stop you it's like you kind of like miss it because it just there's like a high you get. Like I get a high when I create music. It's a natural high.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and you are listening or watching to the Truth That Heals podcast. I am joined by a very, very special guest. I actually call him my brother, but he's actually my cousin. We are joined today by Deciderio. I call him Mauricio or sometimes Mo. He has so many names, but the main name I have for him is my brother. Welcome to the show, Deciderio. How you doing?
Thanks. Thanks, Ryan. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good, and I see that you are currently in Utah.
Yeah, I'm here in Salt Lake. I've been here with almost 4 years in August already. Time has gone by really quick, but yeah, man, it's a different world, definitely more colder. Getting used to that snow because being from LA, having the best seasons, I guess, out there, and over here is just like brutal. We have the most snow we've had this year, actually, I ever experienced in my life. So it's beautiful, it's been nice. How's Texas treating you?
Texas is nice, but deep in my heart, I always miss California. I always miss
Yeah,
LA.
me
Because
too.
that's where we're from. We grew up, but unfortunately, life evolves. Things happened.
Hmm.
I joined a cult, and I left, and here I am in Texas. And you follow your passions, your dreams, and that's led you to opportunities. And now
Yeah.
you're in Utah. But talking about dreams and opportunities, your dream as a child, and me
Hmm.
being with you all the time, I always saw that you had a passion for music, and that's what I want to talk about today. Before we really get started, can you share a little bit about your musical journey or your musical career with the audience?
Okay. Well, yeah, it started early on. I have to say, so I always tell this story when I get interviewed with my band and stuff, is where, my dad, Teolito, my dad and my tia Lili, rest in peace. So my dad he'd always had a passion for music. And ever since he was a little kid, he had a passion for music, but he just never learned how to play anything. And neither did my aunt or anybody in our family really learn how to play instruments. And he always had that itch. And when we used to sell the Swami, so one day he had just come home with all these instruments, guitar, electronic drums, a microphone, and so he would get together like on weekdays and just start like jamming out with it. We chose like sometimes your dad would come, everybody would just come through and just start singing on the mic, and they didn't know how to play. It was just like noise, whang, whang, and I want to say it started there. It was like they put a seed in me like that. I didn't realize you unconsciously. I didn't know, and I was always covering my ears. I'm like, damn, they don't know how to play nothing. And so, but they didn't care. They were just having a good time. And that's when you love something at the moment. It doesn't matter if you know how to do it or not. You just want to do it. So that let a seed in me. And then when I was in fourth grade, a teacher came in to our fourth grade class, said, "Hey, we're gonna start a music program here in our elementary school. If you guys want to learn how, learn any instrument, let us know, and we can sign you up." So that night, I went to my parents, say, "Hey, you know what? They're gonna teach us music in elementary school for free, and all we do is just get an instrument." And my parents didn't have that much money, but we rented an old beat up saxophone. There used to be I don't know if you remember, but in Bellflower, there used to be a music shop. They used to have like instruments. It was on
In that
I
town,
believe on
Bellflower,
Clark. Yeah.
like by the
No, it
library.
was another one. No, it wasn't. It was not that one, but it was another one. It was like
Okay.
more like where my brother used to live, but they don't. It was not there no more. So yeah, they got me the saxophone, and that's where I started. I began in elementary school, and I learned saxophone for a very long time. Then I went to middle school, and then high school is when I kind of like flourished, where I just started like, okay, I've been playing saxophone for many years. I started playing tuba. I played a little bit of the drums. And I was in marching band. It was fun. So like, and then I was invited to be in my first band in high school. I don't really remember the Swinging Pimp Cats.
I
You
remember.
know,
Yeah, you performed
and
at Saint Dominic Savio in Bellflower once.
oh yeah, that's right. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I remember it. That's in the 90s swing came back and had a nice I guess a moment there again, the swing. Everybody was doing it. And so yeah, we had a good time. I learned a lot. Then went to college. And then that's when I started playing guitar. Then I started playing drums and piano. I started. It was funny because I actually there was a Korean lady who she didn't speak English at all, and we made a trade. We made a pact that I would teach her English, and she would give me free piano lessons. And so I would read. I like the first I started reading her Frankenstein by what was
Mary
it, Mary
Shelley.
Shelley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I was teaching her English, just let her read that, and
That's
she learned
deep.
it pretty quick. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
it was cool though, because I got free piano lessons and I learned a lot. And then yeah, and then I got into the ministry and church, and I started, being a music director there. And I still have my own dreams of doing my own band, and then eventually did Los Pocos, which is one of my many side projects. Then fast forward, I did like Los Pocos for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Then that didn't go. It took me. I mean, it didn't go anywhere. And then I met Walla. Which is another story that maybe I can tell later today. But
Mm.
like I was done with bands, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this try one more. I was already 30 at the time, and I met John Kim, and we did Walla, and then that Walla ended up becoming something more than I ever imagined.
Yeah.
And then with that went up and down, and we had our moments, and then ended up breaking through because of money.
Yeah.
And then now I'm just making beats where like I make my own beats and I sell them online. I have my own website, and yeah, I try right now. I've been working on a lot of new beats for this year, but last year I uploaded like 30 beats on my website, and I sold like about five of them.
Okay.
So it's cool because with technology now, like I can be here in Utah, and somebody in Texas or in New York or even in Colombia can buy my beat. They can either sing on it or rap on it, and they release it. So it's awesome how technology has really helped. I feel like a lot of creative people, where it's more like freedom to like just, you don't have, before, like you wanted to finish a song, you had to go to a big studio,
Yeah.
and you have to rent the whole studio for like $500 a day. And when you had that money, you were not going to produce music. So now it's more easier than ever for anybody to pick up a computer, pick up a guitar, and just write a song.
I think talking about renting the recording studio. I think I was with you. I think we were in Lakewood or something where you got a studio because you're starting off Los Pocos
Oh, that's right. I think it was Santa Fe Springs,
in
right?
Santa Fe Springs. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a rehearsal studio, and then they also had a recording studio. So whenever you want to record the songs that you were rehearsing, they would record you. Did you practice? Were you practicing with this? Because you were playing bass, right, for a little bit
Yeah, because
before you.
I think the bass player was either sick or he was in jail. I don't know. But we had a gig at Santo Tomas in LA
Yeah, I
in the
remember. That was like
basement,
one of our first shows ever.
and then we got interviewed by Azteca.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was
I was
cool.
like, I was so nervous. I was just like, but it's those things those moments you always hope for when you're starting out, right? Like, they give you more fire to just continue and follow your passion. So, but yeah, I feel like my music passion to my uncle, my tia, where they gave me something that, and now it's like, I hope to inspire one of either my boys or one of my family members who's young right now, to hopefully they get inspired to say, hey, you know what? I want to pick up a guitar like my uncle Mo or my dad, went Mo and learn, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's the most when you can pass that down, it's a beautiful thing.
So you shared earlier, or just right now, about the ups and downs, and starting off from your father and and my dad, and how they would play racket. It wasn't really music; it was just racket. But they just how they say sing like you're in the shower, or like, or
Yeah,
dance like no one is looking. So
yeah.
it sounds like they just did that, and it started planting a seed. And but that seed, I'm wondering, when was it that you felt that it really bloomed in your life? Was it when you were with the Swinging Pimp Cats? Was it when you were in the marching band? Or was there a moment where you just said, I love music?
Yeah, I mean, it happened pretty young because I remember when I was playing a saxophone. I couldn't write it was really hard to write a song with a saxophone when I was 10, I believe. I was like, what? I want to write a song, but I just have a saxophone, and I don't. And at the time, I was limited to my instruments, and I didn't. If I would have picked up the piano, I probably would have started writing songs at an earlier age. But I knew since then, since I was 10, I was like, I wanted to be in music. Like sometimes we even with the cousins, I'm not sure with you, but we pretend we are in the band and we would sing. And I told him when I grow up, I wanted to be, I wanted to be in music. I don't know, it's weird. I had the inclination in my heart that I wanted to do music since I was small. And it was like around 10 when I was like, well, okay, I can't write a song with a saxophone, but I'm gonna learn how to find how to write a song one day. And then then I would look at, like, I started when I was really young looking into like biographies, like when they would have on MTV or VH1, like on artists and how they came up, and like how the Beatles came up, how John Lennon learned how to play guitar, or Paul McCartney, how they met. Like that always intrigued me. That always, like, I was always fascinated by how they started, because then I can get answers on how I could start, So like it was really early on. And with different bands that I was in, I learned different things, and I felt like I was lucky. I was fortunate enough that I was young when I learned what I love to do with my life. I feel like sometimes it takes people a while, but I knew early on, which kind of helped me in a sense where, like, I had a target, and I had an aim, and I just had to keep working towards that target.
And I've established that we're cousins. So, I'm Salvadorian, my father and your father are Salvadorian. Your mother is a Mexican. We both
Mhm.
grew up in the LA scene. Did your Mexican roots, Salvadorian roots, and the neighborhoods, the city of LA, how did that influence you in your musical journey?
Well, it's funny because I'm not sure if you find yourself in the same shoes where I feel like when we're young, we want to break out of our parents' musical taste, and whatever whatever they have to offer us, we kind of want to. When we were young, we rejected it. We're like, no, 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 we want to find our own identity, right? But as I grew up and I started getting older, I started going back to the music that they introduced me to. And even now, more now that I'm 40, almost 42 years old, like, I I kind of think I sound like it's silly of me to, like, even try to reject it, because there's so much beautiful music they introduced me to, like, without even me knowing. Like, there's a lot of songs like boleros, for one thing, right? It's a music genre that Mamalita will listen to, this music genre. And boleros, they're still popular now. They take a different shape and form, but it's such beautiful music that came from like the 1930s and Mexican culture. Then my fast forward, my dad, when he came from El Salvador, he was 20. And so he listened to like Jose, Juan Gabriel. He listened to Camilo Sesto, all those artists that now I listen to them, and they had some bangers, man. I was like, what was I think? Like, these
Yeah.
are jams, and what even blows me more away is that they had limited capabilities with sound equipment. So there's a guy in the bass, a guy in a guitar, and a drum and a keyboard, and they made more music than sometimes I can make in a laptop. And it
Mhm.
boggles my mind how they make it so full. So definitely there's songs, and now I go back and I listen, and I'm driving sometimes, and I wanna reminisce to when my early childhood days. So I'll put a song like, and it's beautiful because music has the ability to take you to a certain point in your life. Like you might have forgot about it, right? But when you hear that song, it'll take you either when you were 10, 12, 21, and you can smell how what things were smelling like at that moment, and how you were feeling. And it's just crazy how music has that ability to just to take, it's like a time machine, and it takes you there. So and then and I hear it now in my music. I those influences, you hear it now. I'm very proud of who I am, my background. I'm very proud of my roots. I don't, I'm not ashamed. Like, hey, it's beautiful music, and if I can like sample a song of like I did actually a couple of songs I sampled there from old songs that I just, kind of like Kanye West sampled a lot of like 70s R&B grooves like Earth, Wind and Fire, and so did Dre, so I want to do that, but we do that with Latino music, where like I'm
Yeah.
sampling old school songs that no one's ever heard before or sampled. And then going back to like being in LA, of course, we were introduced to Dre, Snoop Dogg, and the hip hop element. Later on, K Rock, 106.7. They
Yeah.
introduced me to a lot of rock, Chili Peppers, and Nirvana. So it's like, I feel like and now as a DJ, because I DJ too sometimes, I have a big eclectic taste where, I can throw Nirvana, and then I'll throw you like an old 70s song, like back in the days, that like maybe Fleetwood Mac. I'll throw a Fleetwood
Yeah.
Mac right there, and people are like, "Whoa, like this guy knows his music." Like people would like, I could throw you some hip hop, some Dr. Dre or whatever, like newer stuff too. So, growing up in LA does definitely give you like a nice taste of music, what's coming up, because a lot of them are coming out of LA. And then now yeah, it's definitely a great place to be for music. And my parents definitely gave me a nice taste for it too.
And you brought up Spanish music and how music even from the 1930s, 1940s in the Spanish culture had a bit of influence. Do you think that artists like you and maybe some other artists are bringing a revival to those old tunes and bringing it back to the mainstream?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like when I heard, I think Cardi B, she sampled a song that was like "I Like It Like That." That was that was a very older song that they just basically resampled it and made it new. And I've heard like there's an artist called Cuco, who, it's funny enough, like I tell you really, my partner, like that I have these, like I feel like I'm always like ahead of the curve, just like a little bit, because so there was one time that in the band like Los Terrícolas, I'm not sure if you heard of them.
Mhm.
So they kind of sound like the Doors but in Spanish, right? And back in the 2000s, I was like, you know what? It'd be nice for a band to have this like Doors sound but in Spanish. And then fast forward, there's this band called Chicano Batman. I'm not sure if you heard of them, but they have a very psychedelic, but they sing in Spanish and in English, and they blew up. Funny
Really?
enough, the lead singer, I went to college with him at Cerritos. And then fast forward, I was like, it'd be nice for young people to sample 30s music. And then sure enough, this guy comes, his name is Cuco, who's from LA. He started he would remake these old songs like Los Panchos, and he would sing them in a modern way, and he blew up. He got signed by Interscope, and he's a big artist now in Latino culture. And it's just like, dang it, I wish I could. I don't think is I'm not a singer. I'm a music maker. Like I can make beats, I can make, but I can't. I have a voice, like
You're,
I
you're not
I'm
a
just not.
you're not a singer, you're a lover,
No. Exactly. But
right?
unfortunately, I couldn't sing, but it's like, it's funny now that it's nice to see that these ideas I had in my head are now are forthcoming. We're like, wow, like this thing happened, and it went well for a band. And like like another thing that I did recently, I'm not sure if you listen, but there's what's taking over a lot is Afro beats,
Yeah,
like music from like Senegal, from like Africa, where like it has a certain feel. And I told you really, this is the next thing that's going to be big. And sure enough, it's like it's a very popular right now, which is awesome, because I feel like music, it's weird, music changes and it evolves, but at the same time, like fashion, always comes back to certain phases.
Yeah.
Like I feel like swing will end up making a resurface somehow. Ska will end up resurfacing somehow. Reggae, it all does. It just takes time and the right keys and players to bring it back. And regurgitate it in a new form.
I remember you took me to my first concert. I think it was at the Glass House. Is that in Pomona?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hepcat, right?
the Hepcast, yeah. And then like
Mm-hmm.
a week or two later, I left for to follow my own pursuits in life. But yeah, that was my first concert.
That was a fun. I still remember that was such a fun show. They put a good show on. They're actually playing in Long Beach in the summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
they're still going.
I remember when we went to that concert. I don't know. We ate before. I think some tacos. They're like down the street, and then anyways, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. But I'm gonna say is that, man, I don't know if does the Glass House still exist?
Yeah, it does.
Well, I hope they freaking cleaned their bathrooms, dude, because it was
Oh
like,
no,
man,
it's still pretty bad. Like,
oh
yeah, it's
god,
definitely not the cleanest venue. Not the nicest venue by any stretch, but it's a I want to say historical because I've seen some really good bands there. Like
they had good
bands that end up
shows.
and yeah, and they end up blowing up, like becoming really huge.
And have
You
you
know.
performed at the Glass House?
No, we've gone pretty close. We've gotten pretty close, but not no, not yet. That would be like, if we do the Glass House or the Hollywood Bowls, it's always been a
Yeah.
dream of mine. I did the Viper Room, or even the Hollywood Palladium, you
Okay.
know. But yeah, I've the Viper Room and then the Whiskey Pete's where the Doors actually played their first show, Whiskey Pete. And I'm not sure if you know the story of how Jim Morrison did his first show, right? Where
No.
he was so nervous that he faced he couldn't face the crowd, so he would sing to the band on his first show, and so they would boo him because he didn't want to turn around and look at the crowd, so he sang with his back facing them most of the
Hey.
show.
Well, he's known for being so I don't want to say outrageous, but I mean his style when it came to singing, and he would have like this kind of poetry, a poetic part of
Mhm.
him, and he had like, that vulgarity. It just you can see the progress in creators, in artists. How sometimes you can start off like Jim Morrison, facing the wall, and it can be very intimidating. But once you break out of
Mhm.
that shell,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Jim Morrison really broke out like big time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And he led the way for I feel like a lot because like it's like influential, right? Like how like not just only in the music but stage presence is very influential. Like Elvis influenced a lot of artists. Then I want to say Jim Morrison, and then like other people who came, Michael Jackson, another person very influential in his moves. Where like now you see a lot of people that like Justin Timberlake, Chris Brown, like so it's like you not only can your music really influence people, but just how you carry yourself on stage, which is
And
pretty awesome. Like
do you find yourself having your own style, or do you just play?
oh no, I made it a point that when I played a show, you felt my energy. And like even though I was just a bass player and I was in the background, like and it's funny because it's just how life happens, right? Like my singer, he was very shy. My singer for Walla
Mhm.
was very shy and he didn't he just stood there really, which is fine. Like not everybody's gonna be like so he relied on me to bring the energy and he was okay, stand right here, stand right next to me.
Yeah,
So you can kind of feed off my energy and the crowd would be like, hey man, when I see you playing your bass, man, I really get into it. And I'm like, hey man, like thank you, like I appreciate that, because like, people, like I know there's bands that are just more mellow but when you're playing like hype music and like it's very energetic, you have to bring that energy,
yeah.
because people will feel it. It transcends like, oh, you just feel their energy, and I always like people giving people good shows, and that's one thing I do miss about. I don't play as much live shows anymore, but when we did, I gave it my everything. I would leave everything on that stage, come out tired, and sometimes I'd be jumping like like who's that guitarist from AC/DC, the
Angus Young,
guy who
Angus Young, right?
I yeah, that guy has so much, and like he's known for that, you know. He's known for like just, and even at his old age, he's still been rocking like shows. Like Marathon
Yeah.
went to go see them, and he was like, man, that guy, he's
He
like
took
60,
he
70
took
years old.
me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, that must have been an amazing show.
A shout out to Raton if he's listening. I remember at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time I was still because I just recently came back home, so my mind was still programmed into this like religious slash culty kind of lifestyle. But I was trying to like
Mhm.
be daring and kind of go against it, and I guess a little bit rebellious. So I went to the concert, and everyone has their devil horns, and I'm there like in my seat, like
That's funny.
but I saw him like doing these like he was like spinning on the floor. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
this is a good show. It brings something
exactly.
extra.
Yeah.
So but for you, when you started doing that, your first time, was it a bit scary?
Oh yeah. And I'm lucky that I started young. I feel like cause that helped. Like when the Swinging Pimp Cats was like my first taste of it, and definitely you get nervous, you get those butterflies and play the wrong note, you squeak the wrong when I was playing a saxophone, you know,
Yeah.
and it's intimidating because like you're looking at people and their eyes are on you and you're like and so you can't mess up, but that's where if you rehearse enough, if you practice on and by the time you get ready for that show, you'll be ready. But even then, like I remember like with Walla, like they would tell us, oh, Justin Bieber's managers in the audience, or so and so's managers in the audience, or so and so, and then that would really bring that pressure because now you have record labels in the audience, and you're like, okay, I can't mess up, I can't mess up. But even then, like it's just you're human, like you
Yeah.
can't be perfect, and it's like you just got to do your best, and hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Hey, as long as you give it your best.
And I think we were in Las Vegas recently. I don't know if you remember. I don't remember half of the of the experience, but we were eating, and then you were sharing that I believe on one of your shows, someone actually throwed tomatoes at you,
I can't I can't remember. I mean, I've been thrown a
or
lot of
maybe that was
things.
Jack. Maybe that was Jackie who said that someone threw tomatoes.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, I've done so many shows where like people have booed us and people are just like, get off. Like, I'm pretty sure in the early on, maybe we had an incident like that with Jackie because yeah, Jackie was like the first Los Pocos singer that we had.
Yeah.
And we went. She was in it for a while, and we had our moments where like we earned our stripes. I earned my stripes with that band, and it was just good times. We were young, and then we had no clue what we were doing, but we're a part of it was just having fun and being together. And that's what it's funny because so and I felt like if Walla would have had that, we might have survived what happened to us in the sense where like we with Los Pocos, it was all about brotherhood. We had each other's backs, and like looking out for each other. And it's always trying to push each other. But with Wall, it was like all about the money. It was just like it's all about me. And then the singer would be like, "I'm not your friend. Like we don't. I'm not your bro. Like don't speak to me like that." I'm like, really? Okay, whatever. Then we're just a
Mhm.
business partners. Then. But now with the new singer with Johnny, it's a different. It's a he's we all get along. It's a brotherhood. We're working on new music with Wall. Actually, we're gonna have a couple of songs being released. But it's that thing where like I enjoyed more when you're in a yeah, I mean making money is important, but when you're making art, it's important to make art with good people with good energy. They're not there just to make money or be creative dictators. We're a band and I feel like when you let everybody speak or everybody contribute, it just makes it for a better experience for everybody.
Well, like
But
as
yeah.
as a podcaster, I work solo, but there are occasions when I have a guest or I do a co-host a podcast with someone else. But it's always you always want to be on the same page. And when there's someone who's acting like a one-man show or like they're more important than the rest of the group, like if I'm gonna do a podcast with someone or a co-host and and I see that their treatment of me is kind of like, I'm just doing this for money. Let's do a quick interview, and then I'm getting
Hmm.
exploited. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not. I didn't sign up for that. So there has to be, I don't know, there has to be some, I guess, boundaries that you set up as well when you're working with someone who's just money hungry. And like
Yeah,
you said, money makes it's good. We
yeah.
need money. We need to pay our bills. But do you feel that in the hunt for money that you can lose your creative abilities, or does it help maybe propel your creations?
No, I mean, I for sure think that sometimes money can mess up things because at least in my experience, it creates this trustfulness, right? Like there was a moment where I just said it because sometimes I'm the kind of person I like to speak up, and I say, John, I have a feeling that if you could sell you sell your mom's soul to become rich and famous, you would do it. Like I have a sense from you. He's like, well, maybe, and I'm like, and just like he gave me that sense where like, okay, the moment because he had talked about firing other guys in the band the minute we got signed or the minute, and now and if I had followed along with him, it was only a matter of time. But he'd be like, well, you know what? Now you don't serve me any purpose, Mo. Now you're out of the band. And what helped us is that we created a contract in the beginning that stated that any big decision that Wall was going to make, it was a majority rule, and we were five, so three had a vote, and I was able to convince the other two that, hey, you know what, don't listen to this guy because this guy's gonna take us under. We had just got signed, um, but they wanted to fire Alessio, our drummer, and we had been together for 5 years, and it took us a lot of hard work to get there, and now people are finally noticing us, and now he wants to make these changes. Like this manager wants to like dictate who gets fired in our band. I was like, why would we let a stranger who has not been part of this process come and tell us what to do? So if we got people's attention, it's for a reason. It's all our hard work. But the singer didn't want to hear anything, and he said, well, we fire him or we do something else. And we'll say, you know what, I've been talking to them and we're actually gonna fire you, the singer. Actually, I said, we're gonna fire you, and we'll keep Gabriel.
Mhm.
And he said, no, I'm gonna go with the singer. We're gonna start a different band, and we're gonna be more famous than you guys, and we're gonna blow up, and this manager is gonna take care of us. And guess what? It didn't work like that. The manager ended up dropping them. Our songs have more plays than their song. Not to like, to like be petty like that, but
Mhm.
they didn't become bigger than us. And he destroyed something that could have been who knows how big it could have been, you know. But for his ego, for thirst of the moment he smelled money, he just lost his marbles. And no, you have to like if you really like I love like for me, I'm gonna be making music hopefully till I'm 80, till God gives me my last day of breath. Like you can tell my family, like my kids, they see me and I'm always working on music. I might not always post it. So sometimes I feel like, oh, this beat is not strong enough. But when someone loves to do something, they're gonna do it regardless if they're paying me or not.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like they said, like the 10,000 hours, I can hear myself grow, man. I can hear like wow, like I went back to 2004 and heard some of my early beats and how much I've grown, and I'm just so glad I didn't stop. It's one of those things where like you will regret like if you stop something that you love to do in the long run, you will regret it. You'll live with regret because you're like you will never hear yourself grow like what could have been. You're always gonna have like and you don't want that'll be too nagging to having inside your heart. So I was just grateful that I listened to my intuition. I didn't let money, like little bit of money, get me all excited. I said, you know what, I want to make it, but in the right way without having to backstab anybody, because then that's gonna be the way to keep doing it to stay on top. Guess what? I gotta backstab more people and more people, and sooner enough you're gonna be all alone with all that money. And what I've seen, like and you've seen it, right? Like, and who knows? Because I don't know what mental depression is, but having money, like being a rock star and having all that money, doesn't dictate a happy life. Look at the guy from Soundgarden. He took his own life. Look at the guy from Linkin Park. He took his. How many millionaire rock stars take their own life? So money is not everything, you know. Hitting for me, it's just like it taught me like, you know what, I'm happy just to be able to make music, and even though maybe not 1,000 people are listening to it right now, the goal is that one day they will, but it's just to get better, to improve as a musician, to evolve as a songwriter, to get that's my only goal is to get better than I was last year and to produce more songs than I did last year, you know. Those are goals that I can hit and attain for myself.
As a spectator, me like as a person in the audience, I think that culturally we really look at those who are successful, quote unquote successful, and have all the money and the glam, but we fail to see the struggle, the hustle that many of these
Mhm.
artists have put up, over years, and for you it's like been a
Yeah.
lifetime. And sometimes even those who reach the top, not all, but on some uh in some cases, you mentioned their name, 10 years later it's like, well, who's that? It's like, that sometimes that fame
Yeah. Yeah.
fades.
Hmm.
But it sounds like you're still keeping that fire going.
Yeah.
What is it that helps you to keep your hobby, your passion burning?
I have to say that it's true love. I cannot explain no other way. It's true love for what for I have a true love for music, for art. I mean, you know, I love like watching movies. Like I love a lot of things, but it's just one thing about creating music. Like for me, it's like one moment an hour ago there was nothing on my laptop but a blank canvas, and within an hour I have this colorful movement, right? That now it has like it takes you like depending on how I feel. Like if I'm feeling happy, it has an energetic feel. If it's feeling like if I feel a little sad, sometimes I write a sad song and it helps me. You know, it helps me to go like it's therapy for me in a sense. Like if I'm not creating, then I'm I get very sad. Like when I go with a month without creating, like it's like when I'm like I don't know if now that I've seen you've been walking a lot, like you feel it when you stop walking or stop you it's like you kind of like miss it because it just there's like a high you get. Like I get a high when I create music. It's a natural high. Like it's better than drinking, it's better than like smoking, it's better than anything I ever tried. It's like a natural high that I just it feels so good when you're in the moment, you're in the zone. Of course, that's not all the time. You know, there's moments that I am forcing myself, come on, you gotta make a beat, and it
Yeah,
doesn't come
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But it's what from experience, you close up your laptop or what my I put my guitar away and tomorrow's another day. I'm not having a good day, knowing that tomorrow is gonna be a better day. And
Mm.
normally 9 out of 10 times it is a better day and it goes away, you know. So it's the fire that I love music and I want to see how far I can go with it, you know. I want to see what I'm capable of because every year that passes, I'm always like, wow, I did that. Like sometimes I listen to my beat, I'm like, did I do that? Wow, like who knew? Like, you know, and I never I paid for lessons when I was in college for some guitar lessons, but it was like maybe within a year, you know, like music was not in my family in the sense where like, oh, my dad was a singer or my
Yeah.
dad worked for a record label. All my family are musicians. They, you know, so and so is in a bass. And no, everything is new to me, and I picked it up, and I was able to do a lot with it. And that's a great feeling for me. Like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't given to me. I have to work for every inch, that I've had. I had to work for it. You know, it wasn't handed down to me. So it's just, I love creating. I love that fire, and I love that high.
Was there ever a moment in your journey where you felt that your passion for music was looked down upon or was discouraged?
Oh yeah, I mean, that I feel like especially when I was younger, people were like, you know, why don't you get a real job? You know, like I would work part-time jobs or like I was going to school. And it's weird because I was going to college and every like my main course, because I graduated in philosophy, like I got decent grades in philosophy, but the moment I took a music class, every music class I took in Cerritos and Cal State Fullerton, I got straight A's, all my music classes. And it's like then I graduated and then I just I wanted to do music. You know, everybody was out there having families and getting real jobs, and people were like, "Why don't you get a job?" It's like I can't. Like I love music too much, and I didn't want to. At that time, you know, at least I was able to like. be with the band and know what the feeling is like to play a bunch of live shows and put a lot of songs out, like that takes time and dedication. And I didn't want to have kids and be the dad that's like, oh, where's dad? Oh, he's at band practice, or he's in the studio recording. Why isn't dad at my soccer game? Why isn't dad or why isn't my husband here at home with me? Because he's out there playing at a club and just like being away from home. And I don't want to be that guy. I knew that music was my love and I wanted to be faithful to my music, and I want to be faithful to myself, and so people were like, come on, already, you're getting like when I met Wall, I was already 30. A lot of people are like have already given most of my friends that I was in music in my 20s, they had stopped doing it. Like, we're gonna have families, you're gonna have real jobs. But I did, and I'm kind of glad I did it because, with Walla, we hit a different level of an audience. Like we reach a mass audience that I couldn't ever reach by myself. Excuse me. But if I would have given up when I was 25, I would have never met Walla. Like, look, our songs have been on NFL commercials. Our songs have been in Hulu commercials. Our songs have been in Jesse Penny commercials. Just like like I'll get people calling, like they'll record. Hey, I'm over here at a Cold Stones or whatever, and your 101 is playing, or I'm at the Apple Store and your 101 is playing.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have those moments if at 25 I would have been like, yeah, I'm getting old and it's time for me to, you know, and that's why I don't give up now, because who knows, one of these songs might get placement.
Yeah.
And I hear these stories where like this producer was, and it's like there's a producer that the Old Town Road song with Little Nas,
Oh yeah.
the Old Town Road that blew up a couple years ago,
Yeah.
where this guy, he was doing what I was doing. He was just selling his beats online. He did this, and he did this country beat that he had an idea. I'm gonna make a country beat with hip hop, and then he put it up on his website. It sat there for a couple of months. Little Nas, Little Nas wasn't known at the moment. We went to this guy's website. He found this one song. He loved it. He bought it on his website. He put his own lyrics on it. The song blew up and made them both famous.
Yeah.
This producer got a lot more work. He won a Grammy, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, and all because he did this song from his bedroom. Like, I have those opportunities now where like I'm making beats from my studio here that who knows if with a lot of work and some luck, you just never know where they might end up. Maybe it could be like, in the Last of Us soundtrack, or in a movie. Honestly, like
Yeah.
the sky's the limit. But
Yeah.
if I give up and I hear one of my friends like fast forward 5 years later, oh Mo, you're not gonna believe one of my songs just got on Hulu, or I'm like, who knows where I could have been if I didn't give up,
Yeah.
you know?
I remember maybe before, I think before the pandemic or after, I don't know. Anyways, I was in Austin. I was with a friend of mine, and we're chit chatting, and I had to tell her, respectfully, hey, stop talking for a second. Hold on. I'm like, you hear that? And she's like, yeah. What about it? That's my cousin. That's my cousin. He's like 101. So yeah, so I've heard it. Also,
Nice.
and
Okay.
talking about 101, and that's, I think, the hottest song that you had for Walla, right?
Yeah.
How is it like? Because you've constructed music on your own. What is the feel when you compose music with a group, with your band?
Uh,
What's the difference?
it's harder because like you heard the saying, like too many chefs in the kitchen. It's
Yeah.
sometimes if there's too many people cooking, it can get really hard to get to the same goal. So the process can take a little longer because so and so will be like, nah, I don't like that guitar part, or I don't like the bass part, or you know what, I don't even like your lyrics, or I don't like your, and it's just like, and it's to the tug of war. We're like, okay, which direction are we gonna go in? But at the same time, it's fun because you're talking smack and you're having a good time.
Mhm.
And like sometimes when sometimes I'm doing music by myself, it's like I need that someone. It would be nice to have somebody give me a comment, or like a pick me up comment, like, you know what? Oh, try this or try, and so it's I get stuff done quicker by myself because I already know my tendencies and I know what I need to do to get done. But sometimes it's not as fun. It's like I remember the days when I was in a group in the studio and like we were just trying to write a song. Like sometimes I'm really good at where I get inspired by somebody else's riff. Like say you bring me a riff, and all you do is and you play for me. And all these ideas start coming to me. But if I play a riff, not so many ideas come to me. I don't know why. I bounce off your energy. I bounce off what you came up with. Sometimes I can add for good. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But I really do bounce off people's like, why? Oh, you know what? I really dig what you did. Let me try this. Let me try that. So I feel like there's the pros and cons. It's nice to work by yourself because you can count on yourself. In the music industry, like probably like any industry, people are flakes. Oh yeah, man, I'll be there next Saturday to jam with you. La 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 la. People are they didn't show up, or if they do, it'll show up for one day. And like I had so many songs that I started with rappers, they would only come through the studio one day, and then they'd be gone, and I would call them and they never come back, and I was like
Dang.
half finished songs sitting in my hard drive, you know.
Up to now, it's still
So
half finished.
yeah, they have finished, they never finished them because a lot of times, people are not ready for the commitment, and so it's nice to count on yourself and know that you're committed, but it's even nicer when you find committed people who are willing to go the extra mile with you. So yeah.
And it's important to have your message, on this podcast because some of the audience who are listening to this podcast, usually I talk about cults or about abuse or a lot of negative things. And not that long ago, I had this filmmaker from Ireland who was discussing, bullying. And like the idea of this podcast is always to inspire people, no matter what background. But for me, there's always like that place in my heart for people who have been in cults. But also like with you on the show, I think that this message can really go to anyone,
Mhm.
especially those who have been like in domestic abuse or in relationships where it's like there's one person in the relationship who wants to do something big. It's like, all right, I got this idea, but then you have the other person like, no,
Yeah.
like who isn't supportive.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how important was it as a band to support the other members? Because you mentioned earlier that there was a side that was like a brotherhood, and then
Hmm.
there was the
Hmm.
other side that was like, no, it's about me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the hard part, right? Because when you meet people first on, and I'm pretty sure like when you had Brody probably went into your, the brotherhood, right? There's facades that people place, you know, and definitely with our old singer, there was a facade that in the beginning I didn't see, and it took me a while for his real colors to start showing. In a sense, where like it was like a couple of us were really close. We always hung out, and there was a reason. Like every time we invited this guy for like, hey, let's go, we want to go hang out, have a couple of beers, or go watch another band. Because when in your craft and whatever you do, you don't know everything, and it's always important to learn. Like that's one thing I encourage people to learn as much as you can about your craft. So I would go watch other bands. I would love that. Like it didn't. There's gonna be bands better than us. I knew that. Like I'm not always gonna be like, oh, my band's the best from everybody else. No, it's what can we learn from this band? And so we would invite our singers. Hey, come. No, you're like, you know what? No, I'm cool. No, I don't need to go with you guys. But then what would happen is that later on it'd be like, oh, so and so, why did you wear this shirt? It looks ugly on you. You don't look like you're in a rock band. You look like you're in a symphony. And I'm just like, hey, bro, lay off. Like he's just trying his best. Like, like come on, like. And I feel like I was always like the mediator. I was trying like just like, hey man, back off. Like he's trying just as hard as we are, but just he's trying in his own way. So yeah, it was always just like for me, it was a relationship where like he always felt like he knew everything, and it was weird because I was older and I had been in more bands, and I was always trying to be it's like you don't win anything by being negative. So if you want someone to do better, you don't yell at them and focus on the weaknesses. You focus on what strengths they have, and you see how you can bring them out even more. And I always told them, no, as a singer, you're looked at as the leader. You're the singer. You need to lead us as a band and find the strengths in all of us and bring us together. But it seemed like I was the one doing it. And my thing is like if you're in a relationship, any kind, like a band or a work or part domestic, and one person is just putting you down all the time, and exploiting your weaknesses and making you think that you're not capable of much, then you need to get out. It's you're sometimes we feel like people are gonna change or the situation is gonna change, but it's not. And a lot of times we end up wasting a lot of years thinking that, oh, this person's gonna change, or we think it's us, or we think, oh, it's me, and it's like, no, no, like if the people around you, the people are not encouraging you to follow, your beliefs, then you might have to like distance yourself, distance yourself, and because life is short, life is too short, and you don't need to be with people who are just going to be putting you down, thinking they know. It's your life, it's your life, and what you want, you know what you want to do. And a lot of times it was sad to hear him just downgrade somebody, or pick on somebody just because they were having an off night, or excuse me. So yeah, man, I would definitely encourage anybody, like, the hardest part is to always walk away and to separate yourself. Trust me, like I knew we had something special as a band with him. Not that we don't have now, we have something special now too, but it's like we had something unique, and but at the same time, I was like, do I continue this kind of toxic behavior in my band and let him think he can run it however he wants, or do we put a stop to this? And we put a stop to it. And I can tell you, like, we're closer now as a band. Like, we when I go visit to LA, like, hey, when are we gonna go hang out? Let me know when you're in town. We'll get a bite to eat. How you doing? How's your family? Like, we had a call today actually with Walla, and we FaceTime each other. How you doing? How's everybody? Like, I couldn't go unless you got married in Spain, and I really wanted to go. I missed it.
Okay.
And they FaceTime me. Hey, how's it going, Mo? We missed you. Like, wish you were here. And it's those relationships that you build. Like, if you're fortunate enough to like build it with positive people, those relationships last a long time. They really do. And yeah, it's about removing yourself from toxic situations, from people that are just not gonna help you in your journey.
And one thing about like relationships is that all relationships, across life are going to have friction.
Hmm.
But you
Yeah,
mentioned earlier how like sometimes you have that friction where it's like, nah, I don't like your lyrics, or I don't like this. But there's it's constructive
yeah,
where you're trying
exactly.
to you have the same aim, and it's not to put anyone down,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's to build up. But it sounds like in Walla, especially in those years, there was, from what I'm understanding, there was that chemistry, there was a good flow, but then one of the members was having uh, a different mindset, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was it? Because I mean, you could have stayed together, but from what I understand is that John, he wanted to change something, or he wanted to. Well, what was it that kind of set off this for you all
Well,
to fire him?
he wanted to fire Alessio. Alessio was in vacation. He was in Italy because he's from Italy. He was back home visiting his family when a manager came to us. The manager for American authors. They sing the song "Best Day of My Life," "Best Day of My Life," and that song blew up.
Mhm.
The manager got in contact with us. He like 101. He flew out, and it's like that was already the red flag, right? So typically you fly out the whole band when you want to meet the band, but he flew him out to Denver, Colorado, but
You
he
flew
only
out
flew
just
out
the
the
one guy.
singer and the keyboardist, And I'm like, first of all, me and the singer had formed the band Walla. Everybody else came out afterwards. It was me and the singer who we met up on Craigslist, and let's start a band. Let's change the world. That was the idea. And so when they flew him out there, they came back and said, "Hey, the manager wants to sign us. He wants to go all in, but we have to fire Alessio." And then I was just like, "Why? Alessio's one of the best drummers that we've ever had." Like, I've been in music all my life, and he's a great drummer. He's solid. Like, that guy had like, so why is he trying to fire him? And for me, just that was like a red flag, because I felt like he wanted it, and you probably felt this, right? When you want to weaken somebody or somebody's mentality, you separate them, because if they get together, they become stronger and they help each other out. So what did he want to do? Fire the drummer. Now we're all weaker, like Ian, all of us are going to be like kind of separate. And now the contract that we had is there's no majority anymore, because there's four now.
Mhm.
So who's the majority? It'll be hard enough. I mean, you can do three, but it was gonna be really hard. And so I was like, you know what? I see where this is going. I see where this is going, and I don't like it. And like just the fact that you let a stranger who has never been with us since day one come and take over the band and start firing at. No, I was like, I'm sorry, like we would rather let you go because you're already showing me what kind of person. And like I said, it had been building up. It wasn't like overnight. It was like he had shown us like it was showing his true colors. And then that moment when he wanted to fire Lester, when he wasn't even there, he wanted to fire him over the phone. I was like, why don't you have the decency to come back when he comes back at least and we can talk about it? If I would have let him, he would have fired him through email. And after 5 years, like he didn't like kind of like think about it. Say you start a podcast with someone else, you're not getting paid. You show up on time, you record your podcast, you do the editing, you spend nights and weekends talking about the next podcast, and then one day you say, you know what? Thank you for your 5 years, Ryan, but you're fired now. This podcast is blowing up. We're getting a lot of plays, a lot of views, but you know what? Your service is no longer needed. First of all, you put in so much time and work and didn't even get paid for it. And now when finally it looks like we're gonna get paid, you want to fire that person? No, we were all of us had equal access. For me, it was like we all put in the work. We deserve a fair share. So that was a scenario.
And so obviously y'all separated, but for the remaining three, did you feel that your relationship as a band went in a different direction, or it improved,
It
it
got
stayed
stronger.
stagnant?
It got stronger. We've had many memories. Like we had like they've been there for me. I've been there for them. Like when moments of family gatherings, like when Ian's family would come over, or like I know all their family members. I know their parents, and it's a close bond. It's like a family bond, and I felt that moment got us closer. Like they know who I am. Like you can speak say, oh, I'm gonna do all this, but you know what, in the end your actions really speak louder than your words. And they saw that I had their backs, and at the moment Alessio saw and Ian saw that I wasn't gonna let money or a producer or because we got screwed. The 101, we got screwed. Like we could have made more money with the 101, but our singer signed a bad deal where he did it behind our backs and didn't tell us until after the fact. So all these things were, and later on the bad contract that we got hinder us because we got signed by Jay-Z's management company. We got signed by another manager that was really huge. That was with the guys that do Safe and Sound, that song that was really big.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But anyways, like we were, it was there. It was there. But this guy had a lot of fishy. He did a lot of fishy things behind our back that cost us going farther in the industry. People didn't want to, after they saw the contract that we had, the contract that he signed for us. People were like, no, 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 no. You know what? I don't want to touch you guys. You guys are like a sick person. They don't have nothing to do with us anymore. And it was sad because I had just quit my job. I was excited because we were just getting signed. We had just got signed like a couple weeks ago, and I quit my job. I was making pretty good money, a full-time job, but I was like, you know what? I want to focus on music. I want to focus on this band. And then the manager goes, oh, I'm dropping you guys because your producer doesn't want to give up the rights to the song, you know? And everything was just like, that's why it's like it's really important when you sign contracts to make sure like people look through them, because in like any industry, there's a lot of sharks out there
Yeah.
trying to take advantage. Sweet, people with dreams, they take advantage of them, and they'll really take you to take you to places you're like, what? Now I have no money, I'm broke. Well, thanks for anyways. See you later.
And this happened where the manager dropped you a week after you quit your job?
Yeah, because it was a contract for like a long time. It was set in stone. It was like a binding, like it took a miracle like for him to drop. Like that was not foreseen. Like I did not foresee that happening because it seemed like everything was like, so this manager was before the other manager that flew to Colorado. That
Mhm.
was the second manager. This first manager, He was like, I'm telling you, he was imagining that band, Safe and Sound band. I can't remember the name. They were like they're the biggest band in the world at the moment. Like they had one song that was like so popular. He wanted 101 to be on the radio, and he was gonna push it, but the producer owned 50%. And normally that's not normal. A
50%.
producer should only own 1% of your song. 50%. So it means from we made like $100,000 on that song. He got $50,000 for doing nothing, just recording us. And that song, we had come up with that song before we even met him. You know, it's those things where like it was foolish of the singer to do that.
Yeah.
But he learned his hard way because now, I mean, the singer hasn't done anything. He started a side project that never took off, but it's like, and that's the thing. Like we're a brotherhood. I said, I'm looking out for you, bro. Like you're a singer, you're my band. I'm gonna look up the best interest for you. It's not just about me. It's like if someone's trying to scam us, we're a team, and we're not gonna let that happen. But he didn't see it that way, and you know.
You think if he saw it your way or like the rest of the group's way, that y'all would still be together?
Probably, yeah, and things would be a lot different too. Probably it'd be a lot different, but like I always, it's weird because I'm a philosopher in a sense where like I study philosophy, and there's always talk about freedom of will, right? But then there's always talk about like a destiny, right? Do things happen for like a reason? And I want to say I do believe in that. I do believe that some things do happen for a reason, and like I'm sure it wasn't meant to be. Like we had a special chemistry, we wrote special songs, but for whatever reason, it was not meant to be. And I was able to accept it and be okay with it. So you know what, I'm okay with it. Hey, like I at least it's like being in love, right? Compared to being in love, right? Some people don't have like, oh, I never been in love or I never got my heart broken, like and some people like kind of don't, oh, I don't want to fall in love because I don't want to get my heart broken. But it's in getting your heart broken that you experience some of the most beautiful things up to that point, right? Because then you get your heart broken and you're like, oh, this is the worst feeling ever. I don't want to,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But it's like, it's better to have love than to never have loved at all. And for me, it's like it's better have to got signed and had a song kind of almost go blow up than never have a song blow up at all,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
But the thing is that you never gave up, even after all that.
Oh
Where
yeah, no.
people. I mean, it's understandable. If someone wants to give up that dream, maybe they're thinking, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not financially, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm gonna, step away from that. That's I respect those people who make those decisions.
Yeah, yeah.
However, for you on a personal level, let's say you walked away from music, and let's say right now you're 80 years old or maybe 100 years old, you know, reaching your last moments in life, and you were to look back, do you think that you would have regret for stepping away from music?
No, for sure. For sure. And it's something that I speak to Yoreli all the time where like she knows that if I step away from music, I'll become very what's that word? Decoroso when you it's like they say it happens a lot when married people or like if you give up your dream because you're trying to like be a like a stay-at-home dad or a sense like you hold it against your family because you're like, oh, it's your fault since I got married with you. Like I couldn't do my dream anymore, and now I hate you, and I
Bitter.
regret doing that. Yeah, and bitter, exactly, like a bitter. And I don't want it. I told her like, you know what, in some way, in some fashion, I want to still do music. It doesn't have to be like where I'm like on the road every weekend and trying to like make. Now I try to find a balance where like it's up to me now. Really, it's because like just like say I wanted to be a lawyer now, right? Like say my dream was to become a lawyer. You have a family and you have kids and you have to work. Well, guess what? If you want to really be a lawyer, you're gonna have to do it when the kids are asleep, take night classes. When you really want to do something, you'll find time for it, right? There's
Yeah.
no excuse. Same thing with the gym. Like if I want to go work out, I have to make time. Like when it's either early mornings or late nights when my kids are sleeping. Well, guess what? When my kids are sleeping, I'm working on music. I'm working on my next song. Like there's no excuse. I really want this. Like so there will be no bitterness or be like, oh, you know what? I had kids, I got a full-time job. No, it's just excuses. I'm hoping that all this hard work, eventually I can leave that full-time job where I'm doing music full time. It only takes one song. It only takes one song to blow up and do very well, and boom, and then you know. So in the
Yeah,
meantime, I'm gonna have to put the long hours, but it's a life well lived for me. It's better than me sometimes don't get me wrong, I'll watch a movie or a TV show here and there, but I always had this feeling like I could be making a song right now. Why am I watching TV when I'm not using my time wisely? Because then it's not that I'm like before, oh, because I have kids now, that's why I have to stop doing music. No, it's because you want to go watch TV, you want to watch a soccer game, or you want to. What's more important to you, that football game or you finishing that song? You have to be that judge and say, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I can, and nowadays you can record things. Like, you know
yeah,
what? You can watch it DVR and watch it another time. Like for me, like no, it's like you have to live in the moment because you might not get tomorrow. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that tomorrow's not promised. It really, it's not like it feels like we were promised tomorrow, but we're really not. And I recently had a cousin pass away. He was 36 years old, and it just like it really like woke me up because it scared me. I was like, man, I'm 42. Like, what if something happens to me? That's the question. Like you said, would I be okay leaving Earth or getting, called by God? So, okay, it's time for you to go. And like a part of me is like, no, I don't want to go yet. I haven't finished the things I wanted to finish, you know, and I need to push myself harder. I need to take advantage. I come up with a schedule and I'm trying to stick to it. It's hard. Don't I'm human,
yeah.
I'm sometimes I come exhausted and it's hard to balance life and everything. But when you really just want something, it's the same thing because when I met Walla, I was working a full-time job as well. I was working a full-time. I would work from 8 to 5 and I would drive to Hollywood and band practice will start from 7 to 9, 7 to 10, come home at midnight, go to sleep and go to work the next day.
Yeah.
But guess what? All that sacrifice paid off, you know, and then it will pay off if I keep working hard. To what extent? I don't know. I can't see the future, but I just have to work, make sure that quality is there, quality of my music, it doesn't diminish and that I'm getting better every day. That's that's all I can really control.
We've spoken about, the hunt for money, also the pursuit for happiness, and there has to be a balance. But I think most of all, I think the important thing is, being content with one's own life. So like you're saying, like, hey, like you haven't, hit, the millions and millions of dollars kind of a lifestyle. But if your life were to be wrapped up right now, or hopefully not, but if that were the case, you could at least say, hey, I chase after my dream, I pursued it, and uh I at least lived my life. So I think
Mhm.
that's something that not all of us do. I mean, for me, as a podcaster, I was actually, I've always had this like urge to like do something even before, when I was in high school. I was thinking about being like a photojournalist or doing something for journalism, but then I left and went to the Philippines, and that's a whole other story. But uh the past like 2 years, there's always been that, like the seed is already planted from
Mhm.
years ago, and it's like I felt that it was starting to come up again. And I started off with just writing blogs. I was afraid to actually record my voice, so I just did blogs, and then I started doing a little bit of recordings, but I would have to write everything because I was just
Mm.
so afraid to go ad
Yeah.
lib and just do it openly. And now I'm actually recording my face, where like 2 years ago I would have been,
Mhm.
even a year ago I was so frightened. So now this is
Yeah.
like you see the progress, but it was always in me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I feel like I felt that because I was working at Amazon, I was very comfortable there. And I like that you worked at Amazon too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah. So I had a good time, but deep down, I still have a side job. I'm still doing something, but it was just taking away from what I really wanted in life. So there has to be a sacrifice at
Yeah,
some
yeah,
point.
yeah.
For you, it was, you had your full time job, and then you go to Hollywood, and traffic in LA. Gosh, like if you haven't been to LA, geez, it's terrible
Yeah.
traffic, but you would still do that, and it's for pursuit not just of money, but for your personal happiness. And I think that's something that many people, even me, for the longest time, I was putting that away. I was pushing that away because I was afraid. Oh, but if I leave Amazon to follow podcasting or YouTubing, maybe I won't get anywhere. I won't amount to anything. But a year later, I'm still going. So I wanted to ask you if there are people in the audience who are afraid to take that leap, and they know that it's within them, but they're just afraid that they're going to fail or they're not going to be financially successful right away. What advice can you give them?
Well, and it's funny because it's like it's a common question that I feel like I meet a lot of people who they have dreams, they have goals, but it's that fear, right? That fear of failure. I feel like of what if I fail? And I feel like what's helped me a lot is to be like, well, if you fail, it's okay if you fail. That's how you're gonna learn, right? Like when you ride a bike or when you do anything, that's the only way you're gonna learn and get better. And my thing is like jobs, they're always gonna be there. Jobs like Amazon or making money is always gonna be there, but your life, your health, uh will not. You will grow old, you will you will age, and your health will deteriorate, and you will eventually meet what everybody ends up meeting when they die, right? We all have to pass. So my thing is, why not live and do things that you really want to do? Like a lot of times it's the also the fear of like what people might think, or like you said, like what people help people perceive us. But I feel like if we live in that realm where we're always like worried about what people are gonna think, we're never truly gonna be happy. And if you're not honest with yourself and you're not happy, you're not true to yourself, you're just gonna be living a lie. Yeah, you'll be making money,
Mhm.
but you'll be trying to acquire happiness in a different form. Like you said, like, so it's weird because I'm not the richest person. I don't have the most money, but I'm in the happiest moment in my life right now because I have a loving family and I can do music still. I have the ability to do music right now. I can turn this off, and after we get up, I can go write a song and I can put it out tomorrow. And that's no better. There's no better feeling for that. Like I can still do that. Like I'm telling you, like a lot of people don't get that option anymore. Like, I'm pretty sure my cousin, he's 36 when he passed away. I don't think he thought that he was gonna pass away at 36, you know? And it's like you blink, like think about it. I remember probably when you were 20 or when I was 20, it's like 40 or 35 seems so far away.
Mhm.
But you blinked and now you're like 30 in your 30s, right? Same thing. Like I'm in my 40s, I'm just like I kind of freak out. But then you blink and we're gonna be 50. You blink and we're gonna be 60. So it's like you really have a limited time on this earth. It's like, do you really want to be doing something or living for someone else? Like for me, it's like, no, like even if I make mistakes and even if it's not the most famous music, if it's not the most popular song, I still want to be honest to myself, true to myself, and give myself that, that the quality of life that I really want to live. Because in the end, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have no one else is gonna be there in your deathbed but you, right? And the choices that you've made. So for me, it's like I want to be true to myself, and it's okay to fail. Like I told you already too, because you really has a podcast, and when she told me that idea, I was like, go for it. Hey, why not? Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Nothing. Like what do they say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's very true. Think about it. If you never take a shot, you're always gonna miss. But if you try and take a shot, maybe one of these days you'll make that shot. And there's no better feeling when you do. And like look at like I give you props. Like look at you. I remember when you had told me, "Oh, Mo, I think I'm starting a podcast. What do you think?" And I always say, "Go for it. Why not? What
Yeah.
do you have to lose? Like go for it, bro. Like that's what you feel. And look how much you've evolved. Like you said, it took steps. Like it was step or like you started with writing, and then you started recording your voice, and then you started scripting out what you would talk about, and now you're more confident. I feel like you're growing, and then like look how much how much content you've been putting out there. You've been putting up a lot of content, and it's pretty awesome. Like I'm pretty sure if you would have told you Ryan, if you told your 29 year self or 30-year-old self, Ryan, one day you're gonna be putting out episodes and you're recording stuff on YouTube, like nah, that I'm not nah, you know you. But look at you, you got to be proud of yourself and be and say, wow, what have I accomplished? And who knows how much more I can accomplish if I just keep following my dreams, following, and working hard because it's hard work at the same time. It's not someone doesn't just hand you these episodes. You have to
You have
make
to
it.
work.
You gotta schedule these up, sometimes, and you have to I have my schedule as 10 o'clock at night, over here right now. But who knows tomorrow? So I can only do 6 in the morning, and guess what? You gotta wake up at 6 in the morning and do it, right?
Yeah.
Or do it on the weekend, and so like you have to make sacrifice as well. But it's worth it because you're doing what you love, and like there's no greater. I feel like there's no greater feeling, and. So my thing is fail as much as you can because that's the only way you'll learn. And don't be afraid of time. Don't be afraid. Oh, well, it's too late for me. No. What inspires me is other like my inspiration is other people. Like one of my inspirations I think about is Ronnie Dangerfield. Ronnie Dangerfield was a comedian. He started as a comedian, but then he gave up because he had a family. And then he became like he started selling paint door to door. But then he had that knack again, right? He went back until he was already older. He went back and started doing comedy again. And guess what? Boom. He was like 40 plus when he blew up, and it
Yeah.
went great for him. Morgan Freeman is another one. Morgan Freeman, I read his bio, and he was like uh they discovered him really late in his life. He had been acting since his 20s, and he applied for roles. He applied for theater, and it got him by. He was working as for a company that makes Xerox copies. Like that was his daytime job. But then finally he got that. I think Shawshank was one of his earlier careers that took just launched into the next level. But what if he would have given up when he was 30 and said, you know what, it's already time for me to have a family. I've 10 years in this industry hasn't done nothing to me. But then we would have Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's, not everybody's timelines is it. Some of us get in our 20s, we hit or peak. Some of us in our 30s, some of us in the 40s, some of us in the 50s, 60s. There's people, Judge Judy, I think she peaked in her 50s or 60s.
I don't know. She's still going.
Oh, I mean, she's still going, but when she hit that fame,
Yeah.
she was already an older person, and like there's no time limit. It's just up to you,
It reminds me of that meme. I'm sure you've probably seen it. But there's like a meme where there's this guy, he's like digging and he's
Mhm.
digging, and there's like a treasure underneath. And he's like digging and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's almost there, but
Mhm.
before he hits the treasure, he's like, all right, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Exactly.
And if
And
he
he
would
was
have
just
only
right
just
there.
gone just like a little bit further, it's like, dang,
Yes.
that would have been the reward.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that guy, just because I love it too much. Like you have to truly be true to yourself and find out like what you love to do. And it could be like whatever cooking for some people, it could be, I don't know, just like you said, journalism, like podcasting, or it can be acting for other people. Like I want my kids to just follow their dreams. Hey, if you want to you don't want to follow the traditional road, it's okay, but just know that there are no shortcuts in whatever you do, in your job, and music and podcasting. There's no shortcuts, man. I'm sorry, like Joe Rogan, when he did podcasting, it didn't peak until like after 5 or 10 years that he's been podcasting.
And he's
And
huge.
and he's huge now, but he started like in a little basement somewhere with his friends with a cheap mic. We couldn't you couldn't really hear a cheap camera. And it's just like it's those things where like it doesn't matter where you start.
You
It
know who
matters where you end up.
you know who inspired him to do the podcast, right?
Mm,
I was that guy's name, Tom Green, the guy from Tommy Got Fingered, or what was that movie called?
I'm not sure.
He's what's the name? I think he's Drew Barrymore's ex-husband.
Oh, really? Tom Green? I don't.
Is that his name?
Tom Tom Segura? Maybe.
No,
No.
back he's like I think he's Canadian. I don't know, but he was a comedian in the early 2000s. I don't remember everything because I left.
Yeah.
I left America in like 2004. But I saw recently where Joe Rogan was like in the YouTube shorts you see like so
Mhm, mhm.
many videos, and Joe Rogan was like, he was like, "Wow, I really like this setup. It's like there's no like time limits. There's no like people telling you what to say or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
giving you cues. Like I feel free. It's like I think I'm gonna start doing this. This is
Hmm.
nice." And then like the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah. And it just that's all it takes. The first step. Take the and that's the thing. Take that first step. It might be a little shaky at first, you know. Jim Morrison, it was shaky on the first being on stage, but it happens. We're all human. You can't expect to take the first step and like be amazing, That's it never really happens like that, It's like you fumble, you learn what you make mistakes, you learn like for me, it was really hard hear my voice sometimes, like when I would have like record myself singing but or when interviews, like I'll be so shy and it takes time, it takes time, but there's there's no better feeling than never to have given up. Like perseverance, honestly, a lot of times it's never talent that wins out. It's typically perseverance. That's
Yeah.
usually what wins out, you know? Because a
And
lot of times talented people expect things because they're talented and so they don't work hard. But it's the people with no talent that are willing to work harder and take that, learn talent and take it to the next level.
so with your whole career, because I mean, you're only in your 40s, but you've had a huge career from, fourth grade. For me, for me
Yeah.
personally, that's like when your career kind of started. But what could you say was your proudest moment, looking back?
It's tough. I've had many like um I don't know I don't I, so honestly when I first finished my because for me it was always hard to finish songs like early on in my career. It was so hard. I was like I never thought they were good enough. And so when I wrote so Neon Love was the song that while I ended up recording, but that was the song that I wrote in Spanish. I wrote that song. I had just So it was funny because I had just got laid off from my job, a job way back. This is 2006. Um, I still wasn't sure. I've always known I wanted to do music, but I was still too scared to take that first step. So guess what? Destiny, God, he took he made the step for me. I got fired from my job, and so what I did is that with that time I started recording songs. I had songs in my computer that I had never finished, and so I got a song and I got a microphone and I just started recording myself and I put the drums, the guitar, and the synthesizer and I sang. I mean, my voice wasn't the best, but I was so happy with the song. And for me at that moment, like for other people are like, oh, that song sucks. But for me, my first song that I actually finished on my own. I wrote all the parts. It gave me self-belief. It gave me like I could do this. And I uploaded that song. And that's the song that John found me. That he goes, hey man, this is a great song. I want to record this. Can I sing it? You know? And then it ended up being, it's our top three songs on Spotify. And it's just like when I heard it on the Waller version, I remember when I was in my rinky dinky bedroom, the Mamalita was still alive, and I remember her. She's from the old school where she hand washed her clothes. And I remember when I was recording the guitar part, I would look outside. She was right in front of me. She was outside washing her clothes, and that just inspired me. And I was like, you know what, come on, I gotta finish this song. And now when I listen to that song, it takes me to that moment when I wrote that song where like I had no self-belief. Um, I had a cheap laptop and like an okay computer. I mean okay guitar, but sometimes it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. And in that moment, I learned a lot. It was a great lesson to me, and it stayed in my mind like it just it just things just took off from there, and it was one of my proudest moments just finishing that one song.
Dang, that's a beautiful story. And you know, in my mind, because I'm very visual and I'm very imaginative. In my mind, I can see you, working on the guitar, and I see, grandma outside, working and
Yeah, yeah.
hand washing, and
Hmm.
it's almost like poetry how you have one generation working hard
Hmm.
to live life, and here you are. two generations later, working on your own
Yep, yep,
projects to to
exactly.
make life continue. So that was just very beautiful what you shared, and
Oh, cool. Thank you.
thank you so much for joining the Truth That Heals podcast. Where can people find some of your projects, find your handles?
So they can find me on Spotify. So I have a couple of handles. I have Walla, which is one of them. Walla on Spotify. We're on Instagram, Walla the band. Everywhere you'll find us pretty easily. We're the only Walla. And then my own project. So I have two projects. I have one called Deciderio, which I have singers that are from other countries that I've worked with sing all my songs. And then I have Deciderio Beats on Spotify that are just beats that I sell, or you can just listen to them. Like if you're studying or you're getting things done around the house and you just want music with no lyrics, I have like about 40 beats uploaded on Spotify. So they're under Deciderio Beats, and it's Deciderio with Deciderio, which is my middle name, which is my great grandfather's first name, actually. Mamalita's dad, his name
Okay.
was Deciderio. So my dad gave it to me, and it's a name that no one really has, so it makes it easier to find you. I always feel like when I come up with a band name, always gotta come up with something that hasn't been used before because they'll be easier to find. I think. So Desiderio wasn't really used at all. So and Instagram, I'm Desiderio Beats or X Desiderio.
Okay.
You can find me there. Instagram or on Twitter, same thing, X Desiderio on my BeatStars page. You can go to beatstars.com and type in Deciderio, and I'm right there. Deciderio store. I have all my beats for sale. I have some really good deals. So if you're looking for some music, or you can contact me directly. You can find me on lospocos@gmail.com. And if you need a music for your podcast, your TV show, whatever you need, we can work something out. Like I'm willing to help anybody so who needs music, and I do all styles too. So but thanks for having me on, Ryan. Like I'm really proud of you and what you're doing because I know starting it off is not easy. Starting off is usually the hard part, but I gotta give you props, man. You're putting in the work and you're flourishing. So I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. And I'll be leaving all those. I mean, that's a bunch of handles. So like, I can imagine like the audience are like, scrambling for a paper and pen. Like how do you spell Desiderio? Like, is it a? So yeah, so I'll be including that, and that's it for today. So to the audience, thank you so much for listening. You have been listening to Desiderio and myself, the host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and this has been another episode on the Truth That Heals podcast.